This is your third lesson video for the roll call vote project. And this one involves the establishment of a couple different software mechanisms that we need to get into the virtual lab. And from there, we're going to go and do the steps necessary to create our micro-level database of the individual House member votes. So in order to get this third step completed, what we need to do is we need to have a couple things established on your computer. The first is this OSU VPN connection, which I emailed you about at the beginning of the semester, and we talked about it the first week. The second is this OSU Virtual Lab. The Virtual Lab used to be a really cantankerous product that didn't work very well at all, and they've got a new system this year, and so I'm hopeful that it will be much easier for you guys. One thing, when you're setting up the Virtual Lab, it'll have a box in there, or it'll have a request to have access to your desktop and your files. Make sure you click that so it allows you to put files on your desktop. That's really important. So when you're setting up the Virtual Lab, make sure you give it access to your files in your desktop. Very important. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to have the OSU VPN. The VPN is nothing more than a piece of software that allows you to get access into the hardline mainframe at Oklahoma State. And so the VPN is really simple. You just kind of click that link. It'll take you here. You'll put in your OKey username and password, and it'll set it up and put it right on your computer. In my computer, it's already set up. It's this Cisco AnyConnect Secure Mobile Client, and so I'll just go ahead and click it and show you what it does. It doesn't really do anything except it kind of puts this button up there, and you put in establishes your VPN, configures the system, and then it goes, and then you'll have this little thing up on top with the link on it, and it'll be set up. Okay. Again, all that does is get you on access onto the mainframe so that you can use the virtual lab. So before you use the virtual lab, you got to use the VPN to get into OSU, and then you can use the virtual lab. Okay, good. The second thing that you need to do is you need to set up this OSU virtual lab product. And so if you go in, here's the PDF file. You can go to this particular link and it'll take you out there, and you'll install this VM Horizon client or whatever you need to do, and it'll run through, and basically it puts this client up on your desktop. And so go ahead and run this thing. I'll run this and pull it up, and I'll show you what it does. So again, it pulls it up. It's connecting to a desktop. And basically, I'm on a Mac, but it puts me in a Windows environment. And it runs through, and it'll set this up. Now, the nice thing about this is it gives us access to Stata, which we're not going to use, but it gives you SPSS, which is a lot easier to work with in Stata. It's menu driven, it's IBM menu driven, and it's got better graphics and some other stuff, and so it's just easier for us to learn on and work with. So this is all we need to know for the virtual lab at this point. Right now we need to go follow a couple different sources and begin to identify our House member votes, and so let's go through that process right now. For the time being, I'm just going to log off of this, and it should take me back to the main window. So this is the course documents folder where I got the VPN and the virtual lab connections. Now I need to go back to Project 1, and Project 1 has got a couple of different links that we're going to be using to identify and find our roll call votes. The first of these is the Library of Thomas Legislative System, and so let's click on this link and follow it. Okay. Now, depending on whether your law was passed in the first session of Congress or the second session of Congress, you're going to have a little bit of calculation necessary to identify the actual roll call numbers. What happens is each congressional session is divided into two sessions. So House members have 2 years terms. The first year is the first session is the first year in Congress, and the second session obviously is kind of leading up to the election year. In particular, my public law was passed in the 107th Congress, and my first roll call vote was taken on February 13th, 2002. So I am not in the first session of Congress. I'm in the actual second session of Congress. Now, the roll call data we're going to be working with collapses both of these together. So let's just look at the 107th. In the first session of Congress, there were 512 roll call votes, right? In the second session of the 107th Congress, there's going to be about 484 roll call votes. This is the last roll call vote. And so what that means is when I go get my data, I'm going to have about 1,000 roll call votes in it. But the roll call numbers are not going to align with the numbers in my ProQuest bill summary. And so I'm going to have to do a bit of a calculation in order to get there. Okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this first session of the 107th Congress, and I'm going to write down this 512 number. So I'm going to know that the last vote taken in the first session was number 512. And I'm going to come back and get that data in a little bit. But that's all I need for right now. Now, the second bit of information I need, or the second link I need to work with, is the Pool and Rosenthal Vote View website. And this is the website that has the ideological measures for each House member and senator, but it also has the individual aye and nay coding for the actual roll calls. That means we don't have to go in and code 435 members of Congress, 0 and 1 for support for each roll call, and so that saves us a lot of work. But what it does mean is we have to go into these files and then be able to identify or target the votes that are associated with our law. And so that's why I needed that 512 number from the first session of Congress. So let me pull this up, and it's going to go into this data download. And so in this link, you're going to see software and a bunch of other stuff, but eventually if you page down, you're going to see roll call data. Okay, and we're interested in the House roll call data, and in particular, I'm interested in the 107th roll call data. So these are the roll call matrices and code books for 2002 through 2008. I need the 107th roll call data, and so I'm going to click on this one. Okay, so from this menu, we've got a few things up here at the top. We have 3 different links to data files with the actual roll call information in it. And so there's 3 of them. We could download it as a text file, a stata file, or a different text file. We're actually going to download it as a stata file and then import it to SPSS because that's the easiest way to do it. But this information also has the format of the file, and so the first column is going to have the Congress number, second has the IPSR number for the House member, state code, party codes, all this other stuff. And then at field 10 through 1,000, we're going to have the individual roll calls, and so the ones we're interested in is like 1s for yays and 6s for nays. And there's other things that House members can do, but what we're really looking for is kind of 1s, 6s, and 6s, because we're going to use those to kind of identify and target whether we've got the proper roll calls or not. Okay, good. Let's just do this. Let's go ahead and just download this data file. I'm going to click on it, and it's going to take it into my downloads. And I'm going to go to my download, and I'm going to take this over here and put it on my desktop. Now it's important that you get that on your desktop because we're going to have to target that from the virtual lab. So make sure you kind of either save this as and go directly to your desktop, or pull it out of your download file and put it on your desktop, but make sure you get it there. And so in this case, it's going to be HOU107KH.DTA. .DTA means it's a stata file. Okay, good. We're going to go back to the virtual lab, and then I'm going to show you how to import it. Okay, so I'm setting up, and I'm going to enter into the virtual lab. I've got that going. Should pull up here in just a minute, and we'll be back in that environment that we were in before. Okay, so we have Windows is creating a Windows remote connection or something like that out there. And once we're done with this, we're going to open up SPSS and we're going to import that stata file that I just saved to the desktop. One thing I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to change this. If on Apple, if you go all the way to the top and then you kind of select that green button, it'll bring this back in so I can see the rest of my desktop. That makes it a little bit easier to work with and understand where you're at. I'm going to click on SPSS and I'm going to open up SPSS. Cancel that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go search and find my data file. Okay. So once I get here, this looks just like a spreadsheet, and I'm going to go and I'm going to open. But here's what I have to do. I have to find my file. Now, my computer is called pols50 because I'm working on my work laptop right now, and it's pols50 on this MUR or whatever, which is the number of the computer. So I'm going to click on that one, and from there, I'm going to click on desktop where I save that file. And I should have, when I change this to look for a stata file, oops, didn't do it right. I should be able to find this thing, right? So I changed it to look for stata files, and sure enough, HOU 107KH. So I'm gonna click on that thing, click on it over there, and let the thing run and import that file. See, this is the output menu. So it's running down here, getting stata, and then lo and behold, this is what we have. All right, so let me show you kind of how this works. We've got a couple different things going on. So this is the output. This is kind of your log file, and if we run tables and things like that, it goes into the output file. This is the data file, right? So see, we got the first 9 columns, 107th, the ID number, the state name, party, Bush is the name, and everything else. And we get out to variable 10. These are the roll call votes. Remember the 1s and the 3s and the 1s, the 6s and 9s and that kind of stuff. And if we go all the way out to the end, we should have about 1,000 of them. All right, so we got about 9. Well, we have exactly 1,000. All right, so we got about if we subtract the first 10, we got about 400 or 990 different votes out there. Now, what we have to do next is we have to go and search through these variables and find the ones that correlate to our public law. But again, that's easier than typing in 0s and 1s for 435 different House members and doing that 10 or 15 times in a row. So let's all be grateful for that. All right, I'm going to end this video here, and we're going to pick up with us manipulating and narrowing down our data file. So that'll be the next lesson. Good.